Cue the man comes around, return to the Mac, whatever soundtrack you want to put behind it, because Ronald Acuña Jr. is back. And Grant, business figures to pick up for the Braves offense.
It does. I mean, Return of the King, whatever you really want to call this thing, it's going to make a major impact for the Atlanta Braves. It's going to excite the fan base, and it's going to maybe signal a return to normalcy, perhaps for the first time in 2022, because we've been anticipating the return of Ronald Acuña Jr. for all the things that it means for this club. We know what he does for the lineup. We know what he does at the top of the order, and we know what he brings on the base paths, in the field, and of course, just the general energy that this club has when he's around. So for a team that's been kind of searching, I think, for its offensive identity, to get one of its biggest and most productive hitters back in there, Corey, this is the kind of thing that might just be enough to kickstart this club and get him heading in the right direction.
So he's in his customary first spot in the order, and first time in 9 months, back in that leadoff spot against the Cubs in the series finale. The Braves are 15th in runs scored, 29th in outfield WAR, hitting 25% below league average from those outfielders. You look at the DH spot, all but just one home run. They're 29th in Fangraph WAR at minus 0.5 from that spot. Obviously, Marcell Ozuna going to be sliding into that spot. What are the expectations for you when we look at this lineup when you figure Acuña getting into the mix?
Well, we knew he was going to be back at the top of the order. There was no question. In fact, I was able to tweet out my guess of what the lineup would be on his first day back. And, you know, every once in a while, you just get one right. But the top of this order, once you put Acuña in there, you've got Matt Olson, who's off to a hot start. Austin Riley building on his breakout season. Marcell Ozuna has been hitting the ball hard. I mean, he got off to the hot start, has slowed down a little bit lately, but there's going to be some peaks and valleys in the course of 162 games. I like moving Ozzy Albies back down into the middle. Travis d'Arnaud seems to be a little bit more revitalized after having some time to truly rest his thumb and maybe strengthen and get back to normal. And then that bottom of the order, it's got to pick up, whether it's Duvall, whether it's Swanson, whatever you get from Travis d'Arnaud, who I mentioned earlier in a Freudian slip. Those are all pluses. And now that you've got Ronald at the top of the order, it's linked in the Braves lineup. And if these guys are doing their jobs at the bottom of the order, there's going to be some RBI opportunities. And I would imagine that over the course of the next 140 or so games, there's going to be a little bit more thump in this Braves lineup all around, and one hitter to be extremely afraid of at the top of the order that the other 29 teams are just going to have to deal with.
Yeah, Ozzy Albies, I mean, he held things down at the leadoff spot. Braves are 7th with an 804 OPS from him at the top of the order. But we know that dynamic that Ronald Acuña Jr. brings there. Still not really, though, the optimum version of this lineup. Obviously, Eddie Rosario going to miss up to 12 weeks after having that eye surgery, but it's going to be a much deeper lineup, as you mentioned now. Let's talk a little bit about the workload. Per Brian Snitker before Wednesday's game against the Cubs, the plan was to have Acuña play 9 innings in right field on Thursday in Gwinnett, and that would be his first test on back-to-back days. He's going to get those innings. They're going to come in Atlanta. I wonder if the writing was kind of on the wall. I mean, Alex Anthopoulos was up in Gwinnett, taking in Acuña's game. Again, they knew after yesterday and the surgery that Eddie Rosario was going to miss up to 12 weeks. Should we be surprised at the timing of all this, that Acuña is already back just 6 games after he started his rehab assignment?
I'm not overly surprised. I would have been surprised if he wasn't back for the start of the month of May for that Mets series. And I thought maybe they'll activate him over the weekend at some point, whether it was Saturday or Sunday, and kind of get him going. But then you think about, just the opportunity to have him back in his backyard in Atlanta. He was going to be playing in Gwinnett anyway. I'm going to rest him after the travel on Friday, and then kind of start to, give him some DH, some right field, some days off. I think day games after night games, things of that nature. Mark Bowman of MLB.com was all over that this morning as far as what the general plan is. But as we've learned, they can put out these plans and different kind of timetables and different kind of a list of druthers about how they're going to handle it. But timetables and things can change. We've seen that, I think, for the better for Ronald, because if he's capable of setting the table, of getting base hits, of drawing walks, of stealing bases, and of playing right field, these are all things the Atlanta Braves need right now. They're all things that can help in the lineup. They're all things that will help kind of solidify that outfield. I think Adam Duvall has been perfectly good in center, but the corners have really been a mess when it comes to defensively what the Braves are getting. And then offensively, there's been some big question marks too, because of Eddie Rosario's slow start, Duvall's slow start, and then trying to get anything you can out of the other outfielders and DHs they've been employing. Ronald simply solves an awful lot of problems for him, and he does it very quick. And if you needed a bonus, I mean, this is getting one of the best players in baseball back in there to provide that jolt behind the scenes for this club as well.
So just to recap, he's going to play right field against the Cubs tonight, rest on Friday for the start of the series against the Rangers, be in right field again on Saturday. And they're going to kind of take it from there in terms of monitoring the workload. He's not going to play again a day game after a night game. They could also have him see time at DH. I think at this point, you almost have to like put the reins on him, because if as Ryan Snicker told us yesterday, he was built for this. He's built to be out there. He's built to play baseball. If you let Ronald Acuña Jr. go, the guy will never, ever get off the field. So they're going to have to obviously, be a little bit cautious with him, because he's going to want to go 1,000%.
Sure, he's going to want to. And look, I mean, the injury was unfortunate, but it shouldn't be something that limits him for a period of time that goes well beyond when it should. I think that he has worked out extremely hard. I think that he's done everything he can do on his side to heal up, to strengthen the knee, to have himself ready to do baseball activities. And when he's doing baseball activities, a lot of people get very, very excited. Gwinnett got just a little piece of it, a little taste of it. What is to come for Ronald this year. A lot of people, despite the fact he was going to miss some time, had him at or near the top of their list for MVP candidates or favorites in the National League. And he's got about 140 40 games to make his case coming up. And I think it's going to be a strong one. This is a 6-7 win player just about every season, full season. If you go out over the 162 averages for him, this is big time. And it's going to be very exciting to see this version of Ronald Acuña Jr., who has called himself, he's his own hype man, I guess now too, better than he ever was before. I'm excited to see what in the world that means for Ronald Acuña Jr. and the Braves.
Last we left Acuña, he had 157 weighted run created plus and a 990 OPS. That y'all will most definitely play.
Yeah, those are numbers that are going to play. And this is a kid that he's excited to play the game of baseball. He's still young. He hasn't even gotten into his prime yet. So this is a generational talent, and the Braves are plugging him back in. Maybe they, over the first 2-3 weeks, maybe the first month, take it a little easy at times. And I know it's hard to be patient, and I know it's hard to keep your expectations tempered just a little bit for what it may take for him to kind of get back into the everyday major league lifestyle. But I feel like this is a guy that the talent always speaks. It speaks very loudly, and it's, one of the big reasons why everyone's been anticipating this return for 9 months and 18 days.